Hey guys, what's up? Two Wheel Turbine. Today I'm introducing a new bike to the channel. This is a personal bike, not something that I'm looking to sell anytime soon. And I'm going to talk about my first ride and first impressions with this 2021 Kawasaki KLX300 Supermoto. And so before we start talking about this bike, let's talk about its predecessor. So back in the day, Kawasaki used to make basically a bike that looks just like this, but it was a 250 and it was carbureted. So it used a little bit older technology and it was a 250, so a little bit less displacement. And I remember seeing those 250 SFs on the road and I thought they were so cool. For some reason, they used SF instead of SM after the 250 to designate that it was like a supermoto. But yeah, this is kind of where this bike has grown from, and where the predecessor was the 250 SF. Now we're here at the 300 SM. Who knows where Kawasaki's gonna go? Maybe if the demand's high enough and people really love this bike, it may go to a KLX300 SM, which I think would be pretty cool. But yeah, that's the first thing I wanted to talk about, is just where this bike came from. All right, so now that we've looked at a little bit of the history of kind of this bike's ancestors, now it's time to talk about price. So Kawasaki kind of priced themselves, right below, or actually not right below, a good amount below the DRZ 400, so you're saving a good amount of money there. Those DRZ 400s are approaching like 8K MSRP, while this is just a little bit over 6, so nothing too crazy. And then Honda CRF 250L, I believe, is a little bit cheaper than this bike, or the 300L as well. But so I got very lucky. I was on Facebook and I always wanted one of these bikes, but I didn't want to pay dealership full price, because I actually messaged a dealer and I said, hey, if I want one of these, how much is it going to be out the door? And the dude said $8,600. And personally, this is not an $8,600 bike. It's just, there's no way it's an $8,600 bike. I would not feel good after spending that type of money. So I got lucky and found this one on Facebook. It's a 2021. It had like 400 miles on it, and I paid $4,900. So I think that's a pretty good deal. I did a lot of research and looked around Facebook Marketplace in varying locations, and I think $4,900 is basically the lowest I saw. Really, the guy had it listed at $55,000. I just talked him down. So use your negotiating skills out there if you're trying to get a good deal on something. But yeah, so that's the price. Kawasaki, the new 2023. I went on their website. I think it was like 62 or 6,300 MSRP. But then you're looking at tax, title, license, all that other stuff, fees. You're looking at well over 8,000 out the door. But for a DRZ, you're probably looking at near 10,000. So that's the price on this 300 Supermoto. All right, so enough with the boring stuff, talking about this bike's history, this bike's price. You guys can pretty much all look that stuff up. So what is my personal subjective experience with this bike so far, my first impressions? Well, immediately, if you've ridden 600s, 1000s, high-powered bikes, and that's what you've been riding for a while, so that's what you're used to, and you hop onto this, you may be in my shoes, how I felt for the first 5 or 10 miles, and think, oh no, I just made a huge mistake. I'm gonna have to go list this on Facebook right now, because it just felt so underpowered. It felt like a Grom to me, honestly. The power felt like a Grom. But the more that you ride it, you start to realize the power, that's not what this bike's all about. This is just not a bike where power comes into play and is responsible for the fun that you have, say like a CBR 1000. Like, if that bike was slow, it probably wouldn't be fun. Like, a big part of the reason that bike is fun is because of the crazy power it makes. But this Kawasaki, it's a lot of fun without making crazy power. It makes like a little over 20 wheel horsepower, I think. Something pretty low. Pretty funny, actually. But yeah, so that was my initial impression. I was like, wow, this is extremely slow. But don't, first time you ride it, you may be like, dang it, I made a mistake. You may think like me. But trust me, ride it a little bit more. Try to put at least 50 miles on it, and you're going to start to see where the fun is, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. So one of the major first impressions that I have on this bike is just that it's a no-frills bike. I've heard this term talked about a lot with this bike, but it's the truth. It's one of the things you immediately notice. My other bike is a 2020 KTM 1290 Super Duke R with basically all the new tech on bikes, right? You know, I have wheelie control, traction control, different ride modes. I have ABS. The list goes on. You know, those bikes, cruise control, all that stuff. This bike, all you got is you got your hand. You got your hand. See if I can focus. Maybe not. You got your hand for the throttle. Got your 2 fingers for the brake, or however many fingers you use. You got your left hand for the clutch, you know, and your foot for shifting, and that's really it. It's all up to you. This bike is not going to give you any rider aids. You're not going to get ABS with this bike. You're not going to get traction control, and that's why I think I really like it. Is because it doesn't come with any of that stuff, and it doesn't need any of that stuff to have a good time. So that's one of the first impressions, is you're not going to get any of that stuff with this bike. All right. You guys probably think I'm getting paid by Kawasaki to be talking about this bike. But this bike's not all good. There are definitely some initial gripes that I have, and one of the major ones is these pegs. They're very narrow, as you can see. I don't have big feet by any means. These are like size 10 boots, and you can just see how narrow they are. These Dainese boots are pretty narrow, and they're like double the width. And you get, whenever it's raining out, I was riding the rain the other day, you lose a lot of traction. So that's a big gripe with this bike off initial impressions, is just those pegs suck, to be honest. I think the rubber would probably be nice at higher speeds just because it would reduce the vibrations, but I'm honestly probably going to swap these out for some wider, more aggressive, like more dirt bike style pegs. I think that's going to make a big difference. So that's one initial gripe with the bike. And then another one is the seat height. Standing at 6 foot tall, which really isn't that tall, I still feel like it's too short. For some people, you know, they'll see this bike and be like, oh my gosh, that's too big to get on. But me looking at it, coming from riding like Enduro KTM 300 2-strokes, those tall bikes, to me it's a little too short. I wish it was like an inch or two taller, maybe like a 34 35 inch seat height. I think that'd be great, but I think the seat height's good for most riders. That's kind of a dumb thing to pick on, because a lot of people are shorter than me, and a lot of people that are buying this bike are going to be a lot less experienced, and you don't want them sitting on a bike that's too tall and they can't get their feet down. So those are two things. Let's see, what else was I going to talk about? Oh yeah, that was another thing. I think they should have made the handlebars a bit wider, because I wish I could get a little bit more leverage, have my arms and hands out a bit wider on the bars, and I wish there were some risers that brought the bars up, you know, maybe like here. So taller bars, wider bars can all be probably done in the aftermarket, but from factory, I think Kawasaki should have considered that some more, because I think they made them narrower for the Supermoto model, and I don't see a big reason why they would do that. In my opinion, with Supermotos, I always think about having nice, wide, great leverage bars. So that's an initial gripe I have. Also, these tires, they seem decent right now, but I'm going to try to swap them out soon for something grippier. They just, I don't know, they don't give me a lot of confidence, to be honest with you. Like, when I go into corners, I'm like, I don't know, they don't seem that grippy, but I haven't had a chance to get them really warm yet. It's been super cold, riding in like 40-degree temps right now here in November. So the tires, another thing, but I really like the trans. It's got a 6-speed trans, so to all you DRZ riders, because that's one thing that pointed me towards this bike over the DRZ, was like, I didn't want to pick a DRZ because Suzuki's been just putting new decal kits every year, basically doing not really any improvements. So I was like, why would I reward a company that's keeping a 5-speed trans, keeping carburetor, keeping like very outdated design? To me, this bike looks very sharp, and I think fits pretty well in the 2020s. Maybe if the front headlight was a little bit more aggressive in these blinkers, but you can do that in the aftermarket. But to me, this looks way more of the times than the DRZ 400 Supermoto. So that's it's a big reason why I chose this bike over that, and I just like the size and the look of it. But yeah, guys, if you're in the market for a KLX300 Supermoto, I say pull the trigger. Quite an awesome bike, and so far the impressions are overall very positive. But make sure you subscribe if you're interested in this bike, because I'm going to make plenty of videos on it. You're going to see it a lot on the channel alongside many other bikes. So stay tuned for that. And if you own this bike, let me know what your riding experience, or how your riding experience with this bike has been so far. I'd be interested to know. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.